Now some people, when they let their bread rise, they like to first powder your bowl. I couldn't use this bowl to make the bread because it's not big enough. But you powder your bowl, and you powder your little dough ball here, little Mr. Dough Man, nice and powdered. Put them in the bowl. A lot of people like to put a little bit of olive oil on their dough and while it rises. I'm not really sure why people do this, but I heard it's a good thing to do, so I'm going to do it. Just a little dribble right on top there. Just smear it around with your fingertips. And you're going to let them rise. Now, if you read how to make bread in books or cookbooks or anything like that, they always get really technical about, rising times and yeast and like all that sort of stuff. But really, it's the more spontaneous you are about things, the better things come out. When you're talking about bread, I mean, at least in my sort of bread. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to bread by any means, and it's worked out well so far. So you're gonna take your bread. There he is, all greased up, and he's just gonna sit here, and you're gonna want to cover him up so certain kittens don't step on him. And cover him up with a little blankie, tuck him in, sleep. He's gonna sleep for 1 hour. And that's all you need. And it actually helps if you preheat the oven while you let him sleep, because the warmth of the oven that he's sitting on, you don't want to actually have him sitting on the oven like I do. It's wrong. Next to the oven is fine, but you want him to be warm, but not too hot, because the yeast will die after a certain temperature. I don't really know what temperature that is, but keep him warm, dry place for about an hour. I'll see you soon. Hello, welcome back. Our baby is done sleeping, and he has risen. He's really big now, see? It's amazing. And if you're like me, you have a fancy bread pan that looks like this. But if you're not like me and you just have a regular pan, that's completely fine too. Just make sure it's well floured. So you want to take our baby. He might be sticky now since he hasn't been around flour for a while. And dump him out. Oh gosh. And sometimes people actually take this opportunity to knead again a second time. And that just makes a denser bread. But I've actually noticed that it doesn't really take a lot of kneading after you rise for it to be okay. So you just want to kind of split it up into 2 halves if you have a pan like mine, or if you want to just, roll it into a ball and put it on a well-floured regular baking pan. That's fine too, like a cookie sheet or whatever you have. And I'm just going to make mine long little loaves like this. And I'll use some more flour because these guys are really sticky. Flour is just so they don't stick to the pan. Just make them nice and powdery. And then lie him in his little nest. And his little partner out. And this is really the last step. You're almost done. And if you're doing just one big bowl, big bun on a cookie sheet, that's fine too. Just make sure it's centered and on a floured sheet. And the last step is you take a very sharp knife, or not a sharp knife, whatever you have, and you just cut slits about 1/4 of an inch down into the bread, along like that. And this just makes sure that as the bread bakes, it can breathe, and that it can bake on the inside as well as the outside. Kind of like how you cut hot dogs before you put them on the grill, sort of like that. So, your bread is ready to go into the oven. Middle rack is fine, it really doesn't matter. It's not a fine science, it's really simple. Anyway, you're going to put your bread in the oven for about 40-30 minutes, and then it will be done. Welcome back, and our bread has been in the oven now for about 40 minutes, a little bit longer, and my whole apartment smells wonderful, and I think it's done. And the best way you can tell is if it's brown on top, and of course the smell test is always relevant. So we'll take it out and see how it looks. My pot holders are important. Beautiful. Now, let's eat them. Only a piece of one of them. I don't know if I can do this. Okay. Woof. Technically, you're supposed to let them cool a little bit, but I'm too impatient. And my knife is sharp, so it's okay. It's kind of gross. And I just got some new jam at the farmer's market, so I'm really excited to smell it. I know you can't smell it through your computer, but it smells lovely. I promise. Jam. Raspberry jam. Perfect. A+.